feel your fire, baby, let me dance to your love. I wanna feel your fire, rising from the flames, that dies only to burn again. Let me dance in the rhythm of your flame. If I burn, let me die to burn again. If I burn, let me die to burn again.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Get Lit. I'm Blue Star Dear Woman, and today co-hosting with me is Tamara Lynn Jonason. She was on an episode with us, about 3-4 weeks ago. And so we're going to bring a new perspective to you today.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be back.
And today I'm going to dedicate our stage setup to Lisa Harrison. She comes on and she's got a different background every time, and I'm kind of in movement myself, and so we have a new background for you to enjoy. But we were able to get the poster with us, so wishing you a community of peace. So what's going on in your world today? I know that in the past, I guess it's been the past 2 weeks, the amount of information that is coming in has yet again taken another step in acceleration. And one of my favorite places to touch down with is the Pele report, an soul astrology report done by Kepacha. And he has brought us the message that not only last week's astrology, this week as well, and of course getting more intense, he's spoken to the theme of our personality integrating with our I am presence, our inner self, our source consciousness. And he says that the planetary alignments are putting a lot of pressure on our integration right now, and that some of the likely symptoms of that are that we could experience some irritability. There could be bouts of anger coming through, or sadness, because what the universe is asking us is to be our authentic selves. And so a conversation that I'd like to have and share with Tamara and each of you is, as we take that kind of information and look at your personal life right now and examine where your authentic self is really wanting to come out. And when that authentic self is present, what are the things in your life right now that do not fit any longer? So,
Well, I think about all that, and I've been noticing from some of the research that astrologically and astronomically,
yeah.
That Mercury went retrograde, and when Mercury went retrograde, Jupiter went. Mercury went back direct, and at the same time, then Jupiter went retrograde.
Exactly.
And I think about that because Mercury retrograde is to do with communication, and Jupiter is to do with expansion.
Right.
So if you're trying to move forward, even though we're looking at how do we move past our stasis and truly grow. So right now in this time with Jupiter, the expansion is that when we're trying to move forward, we're having to get clearer, like you two have talked about, you and Becca have talked about before, and clean. And so all of that stuff is coming up for us. It's another opportunity before we truly fly, so to speak.
Yeah.
To have a more distilled property, so to speak, refined.
Right. And I think that, if we haven't honed our skills in recognizing when we have emotions that we're not comfortable with,
Yeah.
that's what's going to create an atmosphere of irritability. And, in some way, we're really a young humanity.
Absolutely.
If I was to think of us in an emotional way, I think we're all kind of teenagers. I don't think we've reached that maturity where the adult self and the inner self really comes forward and can make, size up the situation, recognize one's emotions, and make the changes that we need. So one of the things that was brought up is that, there's a tendency right now to maybe throw a tantrum. So if you're having that experience, I always love remembering that, none of us are going through this by ourselves.
Right.
All right. That this is happening globally. So when I feel like I'm filling up and going, oh my gosh, where's the passageway? How do I come back to balance? It always helps me to know that not only, okay, this is not mine, it doesn't belong to anyone. Right? So,
well, that kind of reminds me of, maybe collectively as a human race and our tribe, collectively as a tribe, we are sharing a collective death. Because I remember back the book, The Mother, and when she talks about, the humanity is like being an organism, like a body, well, then if the body is the people in Africa as well as, maybe the foot or the leg, and then the head could be, over here in the United States. I think there's information about that. And I think that's mine, my second one. That then, therefore, if the foot is wounded, we would have awareness of that. Our information is shared. So as a collective organism, as an organism,
right,
we have more Ubuntu idea. We can't starve the foot to feed the head.
Exactly.
So we have a different relationship with the body of humanity.
That's a good point. That's
I'm
really
gonna get that while
you take care of that. But I think that's a really good point, because that kind of brings my attention to our inner knowing, because we've heard this analogy before, and we've heard it even beyond the planet Earth. We've heard that our own solar system represents different parts of our being. And if we're really tuned in, and there's something, let's say Africa is our leg, for instance, that we might be able to identify sensations in the leg and how it's affecting the rest of our body.
Right. Exactly.
It's like a body astrology.
Exactly. Nice.
Right.
Nice.
And then I think there's even that analysis with our meridians, our energetic meridians, right?
Well, from what I understand, with the healing arts, as far as like Qigong, it has a beautiful quality of clearing the meridians. So therefore, like you say, source uninterrupted can then flow. When, yes, part of that clearing allows us to strengthen our spiritual part of our being, or allows us to use yoga. Like yoga is different. It's a different kind of healing arts where it's more about, lengthening and centering and calming. And you can also do the Ashtanga, the building. So it's the yin and yang kind of thing. But with Qigong, it primarily focuses on clearing the meridians so that they can be an open corridor for source uninterrupted to flourish.
So you could almost think of the meridians as the toroidal source energy that comes through.
Yeah, nice.
And as we hold awareness, and in all the martial arts as well, as we're breathing in and breathing out, we're focusing on the chi.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having awareness of the circulation. And that, in essence, is because of the internet, we do have a global awareness, but we're not real comfortable with
Right.
it because we've been enculturated to deny so much sensation in our body
Right.
and so much of our emotional self that when we do expand to the global, which is in fact what the planetary energies are doing,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of, I mean, that's what's hitting up against us. If we're not fluid in the
Right.
meridian on our left side of our body,
Mm-hmm.
and the planetary energies are going, I want to be clear.
Right.
I want to move through you. Then that perhaps is what indicates all the different kinds of symptoms
Interesting.
that we're having right now.
Right.
You know, because if I go to my personal body right now, my personal issue right now is I feel too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling a density in my body that's not necessarily comfortable.
It's something you feel like you got to shed in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
or let go of.
And right. And the first
Mhm.
thing I looked at is, you know, have I changed in my eating, you know, and my diet hasn't changed tremendously, nor has my exercise. But I'm feeling like, and there it is, the digestion, right? And how many times do we hear, you know, our health goes to our gut?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have information with that.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of us collectively moving past our certain cycle that we're in, maybe it's the world cycle,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that we're moving into more the global awareness, that when we move out of a cycle, a cyclical motion, spirit moving,
Right.
That spiral, that upward spiral, is indicative of equilibrium seeking another balance. And we've talked about this before.
Yes.
And within that, we have those dramatic opposites, that yin and yang, that have to do another look at the opposites in order to find that golden mean of unique balance that is flexible in order to transform.
Right.
So in order to make that circle move, the agni and that fire is what activates the metabolism and ignites. So then therefore we have enough oomph to go again,
right.
But yet on another plane, so to speak, or with greater awareness, you know, and it is a mirror for our individual as well as our now grander way of understanding the macro. So the micro and the macro get even more defined in its oppositions to find another balance. It's really a fascinating dance, magical dance.
So what we're talking about is if we're going to the next part of the spiral, then the purge has got to occur.
Right.
And everything gets kind of out of balance. We're in that chaos where there's an imbalance. And with a deep global breath,
we save ourselves and the world.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, keep breathing. How many times have we heard that? Keep breathing.
Gandhi and Jesus, Muhammad, all wrapped into one.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of like, you know, a lot of times I think of Get Lit. You know, I see it as a flame, just the way we introduce the program.
Nice.
You know, it's a flame inside, and just giving my awareness and my attention to that flame, you know, that's your agni. That's your purification. And that's the idea. It's like, get lit. It's like, if you can really tap into your fire, which I feel right now as we talk about it,
right,
we're holding the intention, and we can share that with our viewers, whether it's live or you're watching the archive. Right now, because all quanta, we're connected, we'll hold the intention that the agni, the fire within, the purifier, is getting
purifier.
Ooh, I
like
that. That's good. And it's like, and it's growing, and now we are lit. We have flame. We have fire.
And the most important thing I think about fire, that element is it's heat. It's the heat. The quality of fire is heat.
Mm-hmm.
Heat activates. Granted, you have to have a cooling experience as well. So that could be another, a time or season or cycle. But we are truly in a cycle of having that metabolism and that agony and that, be the motivator within our being to get that
well, yeah,
the transformation.
And if you think about the earth, I mean, think about the mother. I mean, she's expanding her crust. Well, that's her ball of fire in the center.
Right.
Her lava is heating up, and then we're seeing more volcanoes, but she's heating up. But now you kind of brought a point to me, is that we want a balance. And when I think of, okay, what's the coolant? Because now we've got the Antarctica is melting, right? So our coolant is cooling down. I always experience when I go into remote viewing, or I bilocate into the cosmic environment, the air always feels cool to me. And so in some way, we're all reaching out. We're reaching out for that new planetary energy, but it could also be the coolant.
That happens at the same time. Totally true. Because think about this. You don't want to be hot-headed. Hot-headed will not, you don't want the heat in the mind.
That's right.
You cool the mind.
Yes.
And that, we want the heat in the digestive, in the stomach, in the gut, because then if we have stasis here and cold here, and that ties into the Chinese medicine, the basic premise of, the qualities of elements in life and our body and how those synergistically work together.
Yes.
To do our oomph to get to that.
That's right.
Spiral.
That's right. In fact, that's what we're going to spiral into today, because we are going to address our relationship with foods, and whenever you're ready to bring that in, we'll introduce that. Yeah. But I think right now, I think what we're addressing is recognizing
food for thought.
Food for thought. Yeah, but and just that whole idea, food for thought.
Food for the spirit.
Food for the spirit. Yeah, and I only caught a little bit of, I believe her name is Saram. She just joined CCN, and Mel V had done an interview. I think it was just yesterday. I didn't get to watch the full out interview, but I caught just this one piece, and I think it's the theme that is starting to call out to me. Like when you said food for thought, overthought, all right?
Overfed body.
Overfed.
Oversped spirit.
Yes.
OSS.
Yeah,
right. Maybe it's SOS. Spirit overspent. Sped.
Spirit oversped. SOS. Yeah, I like that. But I think it's coming up more and more, because when I introduced the beginning of Get Lit, I was addressing how the acceleration is happening, okay? And what the reaction to acceleration is, we're trying to keep up.
We do this faster spin.
We're doing the faster spin. Right. And it's like, the next thing you know, I need a faster iPhone. I need a faster device. I need more gigabytes. I need more internet speed. It's like more. And, when it comes down to it, our saving grace is going to have to return to our organic pace. And the way the world is spinning right now, it seems to me it's getting more and more challenging to find the organic rhythm, because the body isn't speeding up.
Nope.
The body is as balanced as it was probably 30 years ago.
However, if a part of that organism, whether it's the digestion, or, if a part is needing to be faster in order to get the momentum, so to speak,
right,
then we've got to look at the other components to see what is helping balance that out.
Right.
So that therefore we shift in a more graceful way. rather than the bumpily hard, because we all shift no matter what. The shift happens. That's part of creation. It's part of growing and conscious evolution and growth as a life form.
Yes.
So we need to look at those other aspects.
Yes. And I feel that there isn't much in our external reality that's reflecting a healthy pacing for us to, number one, be at peace in this physical body, which then allows us to get quiet enough to go back to our origins, our real roots. And as much as I was very involved on the internet, and when I made this recent move, I don't have the same access. And I watched myself have to kind of wean off.
You don't have the same access to internet and communications that way.
Exactly.
The technology.
Exactly. Yeah. And I started to recognize, whoa, coming back into balance. Now, I made a conscious decision to be surrounded by plants and trees and earth.
But see, that ties in exactly with what we're talking about, is that you spent a period of a lot of focused internet work. And now it's time to balance that energetic out so that that shift can be as graceful as even within yourself as well as the world. We can look at that. That doesn't mean you throw aside the technology and say, oh, it's bad. Oh, it doesn't help us. No, all parts have a function. It's just their proportions and understanding those, that, like I talk about that divine proportion that creates that balance. So then we have an environment to flourish,
That's right.
And you're right. We get in the spin, whether it's in our minds, our spirit, but the technological spin, it's a tough one to say, I can turn that off.
Yes, it is.
I can shut that down.
Exactly.
I can portion my time and say, I'm going to spend this amount of time doing my emails. It doesn't need to be, oh, I got to check it. Oh, I need to keep on top of this. Oh, I'm supposed to do this.
Well, it's become such a self-employment. And I agree. It's absolutely valuable. I feel that, especially like what CCN's doing, is we're reaching the entire planet. But I do feel our equilibrium is being extremely challenged. And you have to remember on the other side of this, that getting us engaged in technology is part of the enslavement program.
When it's excessively engaged with anything.
Or, yes.
Anything has that same quality, that seed.
Right. Inviting
and slavery.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
And that's where we come back to our responsibility is in moderation.
Yes. It's in dynamic balance, having that beauty in, and that's where the power is.
Right. And, when we go searching for, how do I be more connected? How do I evolve in my sourceful self? We go looking for the indigenous people. Right. It's like, granted, there's light workers out there. There's people that are still in their head teaching a lot of esoteric thought and practice. But the indigenous people, they have a quality of connectedness to the earth and a rhythm that, we have to consciously breathe in their presence. It's simple.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to reiterate.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, it kind of, you think about it this way. There's a lot of different ways to view this. But when we have connections, we create a thread of energetic quality. So what tapestry are we creating? Is that tapestry one that feeds us, shelters us? We can lay on it. It's a blanket, or is it like a mass-produced one where it's a specialty jean and you only wear it once a fucking year? Excuse me.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at that. However, we do talk about also severing and cutting. Well, that's the same premise, is that with some of the energetic connections, we have blindly allowed ourselves to be programmed into, we've created this tapestry that is smothering us and stifling us. So we're like these zombies stuck in our.
It's kind of like we've rewired ourselves because we program ourselves.
Yeah,
we've rewired ourselves
or rewoven
with these choices that are not necessarily nurturing. They're functioning.
Yeah.
They make you more employable, right? They help you to keep your job,
to stay within that.
Right. So we've picked and chosen. I like the visual you're using because the threads, the energetic threads. All right. So we've reprogrammed ourselves, rewired ourselves into a technology that is not necessarily nourishing
the whole being,
the physical,
the whole
threads,
being,
and
the holistic beauty of our organic self.
I mean, just think about, the pattern of employment. Somebody's got a great job and they get 2 weeks vacation. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
And not to say that patterns aren't useful. Patterns are part of cycles and cycles are part of patterns, but that we tend to think that a cycle or a pattern needs to be repeated within a cycle always. And then we get this stasis of running the treadmill.
Right.
And when we realize that patterns have that beauty of give and take, listening a little more, we're using a barometer to navigate rather than, follow blindly with sheep or blindfoldly.
Yeah.
Blindfoldly.
Yeah, that's a good one. Blindfoldly. So I want to come back to the threads, because if we just took a moment and we could identify all the energetic threads in our physical body. I mean, even right now, and you and I integrate this in the dance that we teach. If you just give awareness for this moment of the threads that go through your body, just your arm thread, we'll take one, your torso thread. How often in a day do you give awareness to the threads in your physical body? It's almost like, like a check-in.
The network.
Like where is your physical network in this moment? Like if we're saying all health comes from the gut,
right?
How often do you think about your gut?
And what's your relationship to thinking about?
Yes.
Not just we're identifying it, but what truly is our connection? What kind of connection are we weaving?
Right. Do you, like when your gut's uncomfortable, do you just sit in a different chair? Do you go lie down? Or do you
run to the doctor?
Run to the doctor.
There is a time that can be helpful, but
yeah. Or do you recognize it's a part of the whole system and it has a message for us?
There you go. Beautifully put. Symptoms have messages.
They do.
And to help us seek equilibrium again, to find that balance. Totally.
So I would say in this moment, what we would like to offer in this conversation is just take this moment and do a scan. Do a physical scan. Just start with the top of your head. How does your head feel? And be aware of your ears and your eyes, and just move it through your body, because these are the simple life
saving
life survival that we're losing contact with. It's like we can do all the technology we like, but are we in balance? When's the last time you walked barefoot on the earth? Simple, right? Or took a shower, not because you had to get over it,
right,
and had to get ready for an appointment, but took a shower because you were grateful to have water.
Can I add to this?
Yes, please do.
Have been moving 10 feet over from a warehouse next door, and now we're here, And this is today, obviously, where we're doing Get Lit. But it's been a lot of push, and life has been busy and looking at seeking that balance and where's my barometer. And so last weekend made a choice to go to the beautiful rivers that are here in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was so much rain here, it was so muddy to the place we usually go at Kings River.
Right.
And didn't want to swim in the mud for, an hour to try to decompress, to choose to decompress and allow that nurturing aspect. So ended up hearing about going further down to this other tributary of Kings River. And it was clear and beautiful. So anyway, we get there and park, and I couldn't tell if it was flooded down there. So I'm like, stop. You know how I get a little more over safety situations. And so I'm like, no. And then somebody in a 4-wheel drive kind of Jeep went by and said, one person said, oh, you can drive down there. And the other one said, not with that car. You better just walk. It's not that far. So, and we were experiencing the same exact situation. One wanted to drive down there.
Right.
The other, I'm like, no. So we ended up walking and parking. And through walking, it was so muddy, got so muddy. My shoes got so muddy, I couldn't even walk. So I ended up taking off my shoes, which I'm a ballerina. If it's not a clear floor, it's like my shoes aren't coming off. But I think it's beautiful. I like to do that. But so anyway, so I'm taking off these shoes, and it's muddy, and then rocks. Oh my God, the pressure point like slamming in. You want to get in balance? You're going to get in balance. This is going to wake you. They're hitting all my weird pressure points. It was such a challenge. It was so hard, so hard. It was a long walk, like about 1/8 of a mile.
Yeah.
And then after we got down to where the water was, the mud ended up getting this thick. It was like caramel. It was like caramel fudge.
Because, the earth here, the clay, there's so much clay here.
Right. And it got so thick. And then get into the water and then tried to walk somewhere. The rocks were so intense and muddy. I was like, how difficult is it to find balance and to find peace? What the challenge. And it's because I pushed so hard on this side of that polarity that my extreme was so extreme.
Okay, so
and I grew from it. But
what you're saying is that you pushed so hard to move the warehouses over.
Right.
That by the time you went out, there you were with Earth, and she had her organic challenges, but they were way over the top for you because you had pushed to such an extreme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Balance.
It was really fascinating. So within what we're talking about with, how do we gracefully find that to the best that we can? The theme that comes up for me is how can those normal places that we're choosing to be, that may seem arduous, that we're looking at, that and getting clearer about and making choices about, but how can we transform those? So I look at those ideas of transform the job, transform the stress, transform the illusion.
Okay.
Transform, what would you transform?
Right.
Once you can put that out there, we call that out. Then
that's right. Transform the diet. Transform
the sadness.
Sadness. Yes. Okay. Transform the fear.
Transform the fear. So if you choose one of those a day.
Okay.
I chose something.
All right.
I chose transform your meals. It has a little funny prelude to that. Being a ballerina, food has always been about power food for me. So I always saw the beautiful quality in having a meal together and great food, but it was never my area to create those great foods. However, I have been on a quest to transform the meals that I create. And
to no longer prepare like a ballerina.
Yeah, right.
Prepare like someone who could really benefit from 2 to 3 meals a day.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the idea of how it can be fun and not, oh shit, oh my God, I got to take care of this. Oh, I got to get through that shower fast. How to be really present with it.
Okay.
And I have something to share.
Yes, I would like you to bring that on board.
This is the idea of transforming your meal, and I guess we can. This is my first tagline with it. Is
yeah, there you go.
It says creative intuiting color organizing your meals. So it's tied in with the listening to your body, listening to that barometer, and not necessarily having to overwork your mind to figure out, oh, which organ am I supposed to take care of today, or what should I do, or how do I get better or healthier. This is a creative, fun way to listen to the source uninterrupted within us and have a beautiful meal. And you can do this by yourself or with a group of people or your family. So I'll show you how it's done.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And
Set it
you
up.
are going to be the first.
Okay.
Well, the second. Second to do this. I have only at the farmer's market we shared.
Oh, that's
the
right. That's right. I
experience.
didn't get to see that, but this is going to
It
be
was
good.
sweet.
All right. So we're talking about color, organs, food. Okay.
And intuitive.
That looks good.
and
I'll back up a
creative.
little bit.
Intuitive and creatively experiencing our
Okay.
normal activities help us
Yes.
gracefully make those shifts.
Right. Okay. So eating is the normal activity. Hopefully it's the normal activity, right?
Yeah.
But if it's the, make me a quick sandwich and gobble, 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 that is not what we're calling normal activity, although it is probably a norm.
Okay. I'm going to put the paints in front of you.
Okay.
The idea is what you do is you intuitively listen and listen to what color you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a yin approach. It's a yin approach.
Okay. Divine feminine. Yeah?
Yep. So we have our water.
All right.
To do your paintbrush, you get to pick your paintbrush too. I have lots of different choices. So
And
however you're moving.
I suppose
what
if
you go
anyone's
with here.
watching and wants to do this, they could do that as well. And remember, we're a call-in show. So if you want to grab up, they can do it with crayons and
Absolutely.
chalk. And if you have some materials, just some colors, you can go along with what Tamara's guiding us in. And remember, you can call in. So what could happen here is if you participate with us and you have a question, Tamara could actually give you feedback.
That'd be fun.
Okay, I got my brushes. So,
Okay, now what color are you feeling?
without looking at them?
You got to feel.
Okay,
It's not through
okay,
the senses.
okay.
It's an
Let
inner
me-
listening, inner sensing.
Okay. It's kind of like a orange-brown.
Okay, so you could actually make that, or you could start with yellow,
yellow?
and red would make orange. So you are modifying that a bit. So what we do is we shake up the
Okay.
color. I just realized I've got to have this underneath.
Under this.
Yeah.
Okay.
There, that's good enough. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
okay. And make a little
Uh-huh.
mix.
And so then there's the yellow for you.
Okay.
And just a
And
dab, and
here's
you figure out. You can go to any extent. This can be as simple as you'd like, or as Dear Woman is showing you, you can mix colors that you feel and still follow the same information that can be brought about through this experience.
Yeah, it's almost like a flesh color here. Kind of like that.
Okay, the next thing that she will do is she'll choose her color or create her color,
Right.
and then she's going to put the paint anywhere on the canvas. You can choose to have an idea of an environment you want to create, which can be helpful, and I can share with you how that can be helpful as well. Or you can be very abstract and
Okay.
just go with shapes and dots and angles and curved lines and straight lines. Or you can go randomly with just how you're experiencing the moment. If you have a visualization, please bring that forth. That's always good information. So while she does this, the beauty about this I saw is that for myself, I am able to creatively experience making a meal. It changes, it transforms my normal pattern of thinking, oh, I've got to make a meal, I've got to get food in the body. And it allows me to have a very colorful experience with my food as well. And then I saw how even friends, they could get together and choose to paint their meal, by intuitively creatively intuiting your organizing of your meal through painting and creating a picture together. I saw a family could do this. Everybody could choose their color and they could see what they create, and then develop your meal from your colors that you see what's in your fridge from there, or go to the store and buy something. You could do it that kind of way where you do it the day ahead of time and you choose, okay, I'm going to eat this painting, even though you're not. But
I wonder what fruit that is.
or a whole
Almost looks like
community,
pie.
a whole community could also participate in this, where each person could put
Because nobody
their
knows
color
yet where
on.
you're going with it.
Yeah, they could put their color on and have this beautiful painting. And I'm going to show you, but I don't want to
Alright.
spoil it yet.
All right, I think I can have a closure there.
Would you
Steve.
like any other color? Or
Oh.
are you just, you can choose whatever you want. You can choose one or two, or you can just choose that and just keep it simple as an example. It works
Yeah.
either way.
Okay, I'll just add this one little bit. 'cause
Okay, so you can
because
get
it's
really
here.
fun.
well, now you got me painting.
And you never know. Well, that's the beautiful part of the moment. It's another kind of
yeah,
meditation
I mean,
for your before your meal. I mean,
yeah, I like that little bit of yellow.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Okay, it looks
And
like
this is so
something you'd see
fascinating.
under sea.
Okay, this is so
All
fascinating.
right, so take it away, T.
Okay, so as she paints, I'm going to first show you guys this chart.
Nice.
I think you can see it.
Okay, I can hold it up for you.
Okay, this chart, as you can see, I'm going to let them see it first. And then
Yes,
you can
go
see it.
ahead.
Okay, so
There you go.
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah,
We
here.
have, this way.
There you go.
We
Look at the
have
screen.
green that nourishes the liver, red nourishes the heart, yellow nourishes the spleen and stomach, white and black nourishes the lungs and intestines, blues nourishes the head, also the kidneys, blue, black. I also have in here, you consider the 5 natural flavors, which are sour, bitter, sweet, acrid, salty. And you also consider warm and cooling, yin and yang, the 5 Chinese elements. See how this could get a little more developed if you like. And so what she would do from here, you see that you have orange, which orange would be a combination. You take it to its primary, to its origins, right?
Mhm.
Its foundation.
Nourish.
Red, the heart, which of course going through all cleansing in life and challenges, we always have to
Clear
keep
the
in
heart.
balance, yes, our compassion and our presence in that, clear that heart
Okay.
to receive more. The yellow deals with spleen and stomach. If you're feeling heavy at all, it's an indication
Uh-huh.
that is probably what organ or what system in your body is calling you to take notice of, so that you can nurture it through the beauty that nature has given us by making your meal. So she'd go to her fridge and she'd see what she has, orange, yellow, or red,
Huh.
or go to the store.
Or
and
go
you
to
can
the
have
store.
several different ones.
Well, that's
and-
interesting because I just went and bought all these greens, and that's the liver.
Mhm.
So I was just at the farmer's market this morning.
And liver and heart work together.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
it all works together.
Okay, so yeah, so the red. Oh, I did get a whole bunch of yellow squash.
See, she's just on it. She's listening. She's being her own barometer, her own authentic being by being responsible for choosing what environment she wants to create. If it feels a little out of balance, she's looking at those symptoms by intuiting your creative being and listening.
And
Ta-da.
well, this is so beautiful because it's not a thinking process. It's like
Exactly.
we all know what colors we resonate towards. And I know that sometimes, we're guided to go into a grocery store and sense the food, see what you're drawn to. I mean, you can
Right.
energetically. But to be able to break it down to colors, I mean, we had talked about this earlier before the show,
Mhm.
and I thought that what a wonderful way to work with children,
Mm.
right? Let's say,
Oh, wow.
right,
Yeah.
you're trying to find out from your child, like, what do you want to eat? Or, you're
Huh.
kind of imposing what you think they should eat.
Right.
And the child's like, they don't know what to say. So then what you do is you put out the paints,
This is great. How
right?
beautiful would that be?
And it's like while the guardian is figuring out what to prepare, child puts the colors up, and you might just say,
Right.
just pick 3 colors.
Exactly. Keep it simple. Yeah.
And without that child ever having to conceptualize, I want squash, or I want,
Mhm.
jelly.
Yeah, and you can
They
highlight
can
it
put
like
those
white
colors.
would be the onions. You can highlight it with
Uh-huh.
that, or
Yeah.
or the pepper, the brown, or the black. Those
Right.
you can always highlight.
But then I guess too, you could also, once the child gets this, because then,
primary.
right, they're not having to think about food.
Mhm.
Yeah, you might be able to set up all the color foods. What color do you want to eat tonight?
Right.
Or
Well, but
today.
it's fun to paint it
It is
because
fun
then
to
you
paint
get this
it.
whole other experience, and who knows what environments we'd create once we have this kind of
Right.
information. You might see a masterpiece up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Very fascinating.
Well, again, what we're coming back to is we're coming back to our bodies and health and stability here.
Mhm.
And I find that if my body's not feeling right, then I'm going to have a tendency to not be still. I don't know if that is common for other people, but I find, like, for instance, let's say my gut doesn't feel right, and I'm sitting and I'm uncomfortable, but I want to sit. I want to spend some time meditating and get still, but my body becomes a distraction.
Mhm.
It's like, I want to move over here. I got to find the right chair, and
Mhm.
on and on and on. And I think ultimately what we're talking about is stillness.
Where you can intuitively listen to what maybe the body's looking at. If you use those kind of wordage like color or warm or cold,
right,
or the flavors, the sour, if you listen, oh my gosh, it's salty, sounds really good. That might be a reason for that. So olives might be something that your body is calling for. Might need a little more minerals.
Right. Yeah. Coming back. Do you want to leave this up?
Oh, no. Let's get into that. Thank you for sharing with me, everybody.
Yeah, that was good. So now you can paint your diet.
Paint your meal.
Paint your meal.
You don't have to think it
That's
out
right.
so heady. It doesn't
That's
have to be
right.
another thing to do.
Yeah, and if there's anyone just kind of having questions or wants some feedback about what colors you might be resonating towards, you're always welcome to call in. And the number is usually displayed along the broadcast window. So I know that when I was preparing for this show, and I know often we bring digestible bites. Thank you so much, Tamara.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Oh, do you have the, yeah, okay. Oh, here you go. You might want to put the brush in there.
I'm going to use the ladies' room right now.
Right, okay. But what's been, concerning for me is, again, balance. And I know that when I am viewing what's happening in the world, and things can be very stressful, and sometimes we don't really know, are we being successful in our efforts? Sometimes you feel like we are, sometimes you don't. And I have not found any other option but to get still. And like I mentioned earlier, when I really want to know what's going on in the world, or I'm really wanting to go to my origins, I can't do it unless I get still and quiet. And I've noticed of late, the planet, there's noise. I don't know if you have that shared experience, but there's a lot of noise on the planet right now. And to me, that suggests there's a lot of overthought. And for those of of you who actually practice meditation have some practice to quiet yourself down. It's not unusual to sit that first, sometimes 10, 15 minutes. It could be longer. It can be shorter, where there's so much noise in your head. There's noise in your body. It's almost like you cannot even hear your own stillness. And sometimes we can even go outdoors and not even be aware of how quiet it actually is because we have so much noise going on. And so when I think about the balance that's being required of us in this here and now, I can only go to stillness. And now it's even more challenging to do that because we have electrical wires, we have the devices, we have the technology. There's always a buzz. And you can even go out if you're in a more suburban city environment. You can hear the street lights buzzing. It's very difficult unless you find an environment, an earth environment that isn't any of those things. And fortunately, we still have enough of the earth that we can enjoy that. But that's my question in these times. I have done my own amount of deep research and way involved in technology. Like I said earlier, I am grateful for it. But as things are escalating and as some of these events, events not of love, get closer to home, being still and calm is the only thing that's my saving grace. It does allow for that spaciousness, and it does nurture what, is becoming common vocabulary now, the 0 point, the zone, neutrality. And I guess those are the questions I would hope each of us are asking ourselves now. What do you do and how do you nurture the spaciousness that's needed so that we can see the world the way it is, whether we give it a value of good or a value of bad? What cultivates your ability to look at the world and make good decisions, make good discerning choices? And of late, what I'm finding is as I allow myself to rest more and more in this stillness, it really does assist in some of the most ancient understandings that we've had given to us, which have been passed down. The ancient understandings of the material world is a distraction. And what gives us strength and what gives us peace is simply not out there. Now, I know that over the course of my lifetime, I went at the material world just like I feel most people have. I tried things out and I hit walls. And so then I try something else out. And after a while, when you've had enough years on this planet, you really can look at all the attempts you made to change the world. Yet the suffering and the obstructions still reoccur. And I think it's after we've had enough time of going after things and you recognize you come back to the same place over and over again, that's when you start asking, to me, those are the hard questions. the hard questions aren't how are we going to change the world. The hard questions aren't even how are we going to feed everyone on this planet. The hard questions are,
how do we get in balance?
how do we get in balance, and
how do we choose that?
and after you've gone down your path and you see that it's the same story, the hard questions are inside. It's like, what are you doing in your every moment to get clear and have peacefulness? And I think in this day and age, it's just not easy. And
no, it isn't.
No.
No matter who you are, what walk of life, whether you have finances, whether you're a little tighter that way, you know, depending on how you're performing in, or operating or choosing to participate rather in the system, or out of the system.
Right.
There still are those innate parts of us choosing to evolve, to change, to grow, that are bumbly and hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and I get thought often too, you know, how many times have I been here? You know, how many times have I been on this planet? And, you know, everyone at some point in their life goes, I want off planet, you know, beam me up, Scotty. I mean, everybody wants out of what is not of love. There's no escaping that. And I do believe at this point that we all have experiences of, there's moments of peacefulness, there's joy, there's celebration. But inevitably, the ebb comes too. And then there's the moments of, oh my gosh, another challenge, not so happy. And we keep doing things externally to change that effect. And that's why, you know, now I am reviewing whatever of the ancient texts that we have available. Only now I understand, when I look at these ancient scriptures, now I understand how they've been deliberately manipulated. And now I understand how to be more discerning. Like, I recently picked up the Bhagavad Gita again. I've read it before several times. And because of now understanding how our planetary control enslavement system exists, knowing that all these scriptures have been manipulated, but yet most of the truth is in it, they're not.
Right.
It's like, I'm finding reading that right now is, I have such a different perspective, because now I follow it when I feel something that really resonates inside me. I go, ooh, they were, you know, this is our ancient text. There's these little grains of truth that work. And what I'm finding is, and I have an intention of go back to the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's like, because my intention right now is I want to go back to my origins. I want to remember who I am. And what I'm finding is it's bringing us back to those very simple prompts and pointers that we've heard throughout our lives. You know, find the stillness. The answers are within. Listen from within. Know the difference between right and wrong. Everyone has that consciousness. You know when you've done something that's not right. And it's real simple. You know, it's real simple.
Well, and there's a point too with that whole, you know, getting still, the yin part of quieting to listen in order to choose to be clear about what is our yang output. You know, what is our mode of doing? You know, what are we doing? What are we creating? How is our energy formalizing and forming this world? Well, I look at that and I think about what all that you have just said, and it's showing in our words. You look at the word weapon. You know, of course, you know, what is our relationship with all that? But you look inside that word, we have reap on.
Yeah, weep on. That's
Weep
good.
on. I mean, so is that truly what we really want to continue to support in any way? I mean, it really makes you think about what that truly is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Not only to me personally, or what Webster Dictionary says the meaning of the word is,
Mm-hmm.
or
But you can look
what
at
the
it.
mindset.
You can take it that literally.
Yeah.
Weep on. My question is,
Or we the apes. We ape.
or we ape.
We
I was
ape
wondering,
on.
we ape-o.
We ape-o.
We ape-o. But my concern in the world is that we're still, okay, granted, more truth is being revealed. Truth about how things have been convoluted, how our language misspelled, all of this information, okay? But my concern is we're still thinking, we're still gathering intellectual data, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I may be able to piece something together and go, oh, now I understand, understand something. Like I was thinking the IRS. It's like, oh, now I understand why the IRS is a criminal. Okay.
Right.
However, what my concern is that we are not getting any closer to, nothing is saying, oh, that's how I can be more peaceful.
Yeah, you've mentioned this before.
Yeah, this is
the balance is off, and our focus is
focus,
so in the
right, because now we're being handed all this. I mean, when we're in the material world, yes, thank goodness. I'm not even sure about that. I'm really not. It's like, because what is it doing? It's like right now
it's allowing us to figure out how to choose how we really want to imprint. What are we imprinting, and what are we, tapestry we're creating?
It still keeps us participating in the material world.
Well, you've got to, it allows us to make choices. By having that there, we wake up in a different way to.
But you're still, okay, but I understand what you're saying.
I don't know. I'm throwing it out there too.
I've been down that path, right? And it's like, I think that's the reason I'm bringing up going back into scriptures and really finding, what really is going to help me to know my I am presence? What's really, I mean, in the end, what's really going to prepare me for a conscious death? I don't want to return here. So I want to figure out the lessons. But the material world is the only place we've lived in. And so all that's happening right now, I don't see what's happening now in a spiritual, in a spiritual way. Right. I don't see what's happening now in the world any different from what we were doing, say, 50 years ago, as far as acquiring facts and knowledge. All right. That the underlying part of it, the issue still is, okay, now you got all the facts. Are you closer to your God self? Have you gone back to your origins? That's my concern, is that now there's a little more fascinating material out there. It's like the best movie on earth right now is to be learning. Oh my gosh, we're finding out who the crooks are now. Right? And there's just a thin line, but it's like, it's still a material experience. And if anything, I think it's getting us further away.
Well, I can really see what you're saying here. And the visualization that I'm getting, the visual picture that I'm getting, or the imprint I'm having from this, is you think of simply, you're thirsty, you like water. Okay? So you fill up that water from the system that provides it for you, and it happens to be full of lead and fluoride and et cetera, et cetera. So your cup is full. Oh, I can nourish my being. So I get this information. Yeah, it's a lot of fact, a lot of data. I can nourish. However, if you don't have the information that it needs to be distilled
Right.
or cleaned up, then that information and all that data you're getting is just creating more problems, right? It's creating more, it's not getting you closer to being truly nourished.
Right.
Or satisfied, or et
I
cetera,
understand what you're saying.
So truly, if you do have the information of getting clean water from a clean source,
Right.
source uninterrupted, where is your sourcing? Where is, what is that line? Granted, we shouldn't have to think about, is there fluoride in our water, because it should be pure and healthy. So why are we at that crossroad where we're getting all that information? How do we change that? We choose not to participate, like we were talking about with fluoride in small communities.
Right.
Randy was mentioning this. He's like, of course, we've talked about don't participate. And then people said, well, it's too hard. Elderly people in their home, people are rushing, they're going, they have the convenience of water. They can't. If they get fluoride water, they're just going to take the poison. And I was like, well, I so want to be the warrior. Maybe I just want to be the authentic, true person to protect those innocent and all of us, of course. But I don't want to take on the crusade to go up against everybody and to play that game. That would take me further away. Granted, I could have landmarks in it. It's possible. However, another approach is to choose not to participate. How would we do that? We'd find local wells, we'd communicate differently with our loved ones, our neighbors. We'd find water sources, springs, and we would choose as intelligent, beautiful human beings a way to communicate, to let that water be for however we find a trade or a barter or an agreement, or even if you're still doing the money system, you find another way to have those resources part of your world. So you would be sourcing from organic water. We would choose the organic water. We would choose the healthy information like CCN, and not be bombarded with the same information that we think is getting us somewhere out of it, and actually maybe getting us more into it.
Right. Okay, that's
I know that was long-winded.
It's a really good point, because we have to have that perspective as well. And again, that perspective requires balance.
And inner listening.
Yeah, and it's coming back to your organic side. It's a survival. It's like, yes, we need clean water. Now, maybe what I'm seeing as the distraction is there seems like we don't need clean water, and then we go to the big picture. Right? How do we get clean water for the world? And it's overwhelming. And I think what you're saying is bringing it right back to that local. Start right here. Like, start with one.
Yep.
Am I drinking good water? Now, how am I drinking good water? Okay. Now, are you drinking good water? How can I share it with you?
If you're moved that way.
Yes.
Let's
but I think
different.
Taking on, I agree with you. But
because you can't go fix it for everybody. You can't even, some of them aren't even aware. You can share the information you have and the understandings you have, or the quality of things you put in your body. But a lot of people can't even see that. And you can't spend your time trying to convince them.
Exactly.
You've got to we as people need to take that choice on, and that active yang part of, I choose good water. Let's do this in small little bites and small little, helping units.
Right.
Helping units.
Yeah, that's good. Breaking it down. Yeah. But again, it's like, I think where I'm exploring is, again, knowing deeply inside, how are we going deeper and deeper into remembering our source selves? Because everything still seems to be so mental.
Yeah, that construct is.
I mean, even what you're sharing, it's like, okay, first we have an organic need, clean water, but then it becomes mental. We're so...
For me, I don't feel it's mental. I step out of that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing the mental dance of signing this petition, talking to that person, I just want to choose other people to feel it with,
Mhm.
to feel the good water, and actively choosing to do that.
To make
To
it
do
happen.
that.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That's where you sometimes need to get off your knees.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bow down to the source and grovel on your knees and say, oh yeah, I'm grateful for the poison water.
Yeah, right.
That's not gonna, what? Hello?
Well, and I'm also trying to clarify, we've had, there's a real bad rap going on for the spiritual New Age movement. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And, it seems to me right now, and there's a lot of division happening. Okay. Lots of people have fallen out between each other, and the New Age movement is no different from any other movement. It's like there's good and bad in everything. And just like, okay, like we're going back, like I was talking about, rereading the scriptures. We have to find the grains of truth. Well, it's the same thing in the New Age spiritual movement. There's grains of truth.
Exactly.
And at this point, it doesn't seem to be anything on this planet that the Dracos haven't coordinated part truth in. All right. So there's nothing out there that's clean pickings.
And vice versa, because it all comes from source. Even if you try to manipulate something, granted, as Omoto says, even if you have that toxic water, there is an amazing power within us.
With
we
our
do
intention.
It with our compassion, our love.
Right.
Love heals all.
Yes.
And of course, with our other tools, visualizing, voicing.
That's right. So our source power is revealed. And
it's in everything.
Yes.
We just don't always see it because we choose to feed or connect. We choose to keep, or we don't even know we're choosing to keep that connection that we might need to sever.
So maybe, and then that brings up, it's like, okay, we're obviously feeding the Draco creations because, well, for one thing, we don't have a lot of choices. Okay. So,
well, we just don't know how to get.
Right. Okay. So maybe what it's about is, since we call them our partners in contrast,
nice.
maybe it's more, okay, you're feeding the Dracos 50% because, and let's say that 50%.
We got it in percentages. We even got a graph for this one.
Yeah, we could actually give you a picture. Okay. But
it's a new app you can get. You can see what your level of.
It's called 50. Yeah, Draco 50. We're going to create a new app.
Your proportion may be different, but you're sitting at 90. You better look at your life.
Okay, well,
the new app will be out next week.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. And then the Draco system, capitalist system, we'll figure out how to make money from it.
We're kidding, because actually we'd rather yin it and go inside and just intend it for all.
Yeah. Yeah, what would a yin? Okay, we can go off on that. Yeah. There's probably a yin app, that we can create.
Yeah, call it a yin app.
Yin app.
How to see what your percentage involved in the Draco.
Right. What's Draco? It's something that you touch the iPhone, and the dial moves. Oh, way out of yin. Yeah. Way out of yin. Oh man, I need a little more Draco. Yeah. But here's where I was going. Although this is more fun. Okay, we'll create an app for everything at this point. But okay, so we're recognizing we're in Dracosville. The planet is Dracoville, and even with our awareness, we have not pulled out. We can't pull out 100%. We're a fucking enslaved, man.
Yeah, right? The chains are pretty tight.
Yeah, the chains are pretty tight. I mean, there aren't going to be too many people that aren't needing what do we call it, the Babylonian magic currency bullshit. All right,
or water.
Water. Okay. All right, so here's where I'm going. As let's say this is how we do the barometer, the balance. This is how we got into the app. The balance is acknowledge the 50% that you're Draco supportive of. Right?
Or like 40 or
let's
60.
Just get over it. Yeah. Let's just get over it. And
you're involved.
I do not consent, but you get 50% of my life. Okay? Deal? And but the other 50%, I think what I'm saying, where I want to go is, if we're looking for that balance, then there must be a way to assess and evaluate. Okay, here's 50% Draco. Where's the 50% source? Let's call it source.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
And find our own balance in it. So like, let's say you're a little too Draco. Maybe you don't need to own 5 Macintosh computers. All right. So you drop it down, you watch the needle on the ad.
You give it away, you sell it as like, woo! And then a smiley, beautiful face, a flower pops up,
and then it
blooms.
zooms off to Facebook and makes an announcement.
Yeah.
She just brought her Draco down 40%. Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. But it's like, and again, what we're doing here, it's like, how do we find the fun? How do we be creative? Yes. And not be in denial and not be so friggin' pissed off. It's like, so who the fuck cares? Right. The point is, we're all in this together. Right. And are we in balance with where we are? Right?
That allows us to grow.
That's exactly right. It's like, it allows us to grow. If there are partners in contrast, well, then it's like compost, It's like, chew it up, spit it out, put it in a good spot, let it ferment, and let it bring some growth. Right. Because that's what we're striving to do, is how are we growing within this?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, you think about it that, when you get so caught into the poles or the opposites, you end up bouncing. I experienced this at 19, when I chose to spend every moment of my time in a very positive way, where I was, when I'd stretch for my 2 hours a day, I was listening to, foreign language and classical music and reading, how can I get all of that potential out of my capacity, really make this work. So, where was I going with that? The Draco.
Like balance.
Oh yeah, about the balance. And that was wonderful. But what I ended up seeing is that I ended up doing all this, we can title it as positive, constructive, healthy, nurturing. But because I wasn't even in balance with that, it ended up throwing me all the way to the other opposite. And I became angry at the people that didn't get this. Yeah. And it was really, really interesting. And so what I ended up having to do is, it's like that Buddha in the city. You find that balance.
Right.
That doesn't mean you necessarily participate with that opposite that you had to experience before, but you don't view it in a way where it puts you back into volleyball.
Exactly. It's like, and I think that's what I was saying about the Dracos. It's like, if they're partners in contrast, right? And partners, if we choose to keep that word, then we're embracing them. I mean, if we really, really recognize that all this stuff is pushing our greater self out, what's out of balance here is our greater stuff.
Exactly. I think that's every day. I chew on this. That is exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, then we get to that position you were just saying, and one that's throughout all the scriptures. How do you find spaciousness and neutrality? Because you're no longer reacting.
And it doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. Neutrality doesn't mean it's stuck.
No.
It's fixed.
It takes a lot of work to be neutral.
You're very aware. You have movement and flexibility and core working.
So there you have it. It's like, and now we get into, for lack of better terms, the spiritual values that have been practiced for eons.
Right.
How do you respond?
Yep.
And not react?
Yeah.
So when are they going to become, just like we're doing right now, when are they going to become the substance of humor?
Right.
When are they going to become, a brush off the cuff, when are, when.
In a loving way.
Yeah. It's like, when is this balance going to reveal itself?
And a loving way doesn't mean you lay down and be a mat.
No.
See, that's
you're still discerning.
Too. You still have your integrity.
You still have personal boundaries.
Yeah, you understand. You're still you're still seeking balance to be the precipice to be able to move,
Yeah.
to have your motion, your
Right.
growing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and then it doesn't even matter. It's like there needs to be a place where we're not even assessing whether it's getting worse or better. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
liable to that too, going, oh, it's getting worse. Well,
Yeah.
it gets worse if you use the measurement of the material world. Am I getting worse? No, actually, I feel like I'm getting better.
Right.
And my understanding, when I connect with those of us who are really working that heart, the heart values, the heart spaces, I mean, isn't the message you're hearing too? We're getting better. So we have this koan going on right now. It's like a lot of people are saying, you know, with all that's going on in the world, I'm actually feeling bigger.
And then it's back to the idea is what do we feed? What's our relationship to
Right.
it? What's our focus?
Right.
The focus, where does, like the way I see it is, where does your focus reside when you talk about the mind? Where does, when you talk about the body, where does your center reside? You talk about on the spirit, where does your emotions reside?
Right.
You know, we talk about in our speech, where does your language reside? You know, what are we feeding? What are we creating? What's our exchange?
All right, then it comes right back to the body again. In the midst of
50%
this,
exchange, you make choices then. You start realizing you have an exchange going on.
Exactly.
That's when you don't become a slave anymore, is when you realize that and you become your authentic, sovereign, choice-making being.
So all this fobber, right?
Fobber.
That's the word, isn't it?
I like it.
We'll
Fobber.
use it. Fobber. Like, you know, let's see, what do I mean by that? Fobber, I think it's the word. It's like, you know, when you have like gross stuff to think about, to chew on. Fobber.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
Okay, so then Draco, let's give it another name. Draco Farba, Draco Bubia.
I like the Farba.
Farba. Okay.
Farba
Draco. Farba or Farba D.
What's up with your Farba D today?
What's up with your
Farba D?
Dad, are you down with Farba D? Oh, that's great. It's like Farba D.
I know.
Farba D. Are you down with Farba D today? If you ain't down with Farba D, you missing the point.
And down means down.
Down.
We're talking 5%.
Right, on your Farba D app. That's the name of it. It's going to be called Farba D app. If you are down on the needle, whoa. Get off that shit. Okay, where am I going? Oh, wait, I had a point here.
Well, especially with everybody,
I'm crying, laughing,
you know,
I love
especially with our medical system and everybody being on medications and different opiates, it's just so crazy. I mean, this is actually, you know, pretty real stuff, you know?
Yeah. Okay, where was I going? Oh, Faba. Okay, so it's kind of like, what's that? There's another cliche, grist for the mill.
I don't know.
Okay, that's kind of a cliche. Okay. It's grist for the mill. That's what I was looking for.
Is this a new one that's come out?
No, it's been around for a long time. All our intellects right now going, what the fuck are they talking about, man? I can't go with this. Just laugh with us. But I'm losing that point. It's getting far away.
The chewing on the Faba.
The Faba.
The Draco, when you got to chew on all that.
That now when we look for, hey, am I at peace or am I at balance? It's like you can almost look at the Faba, right? And like take another chunk. Like, let's see, I need to chew on some more, you know, to bring up more of source. Right? It's that balance. And I think
or choose not to chew on it.
Right. But I think what's happening is we're biting off more than we're bringing the contrast out.
Well, we lose we lose awareness when we chew on too much. The same thing.
It's
we
true.
become couch potatoes, lethargic.
Yeah.
You know, drone-fed
right
minds that just swallow and eat and fill up the cup and drink the crappy
Well,
water.
that's the thing. We're
It's our awareness. When we have that awareness,
Yeah.
we can literally discern and
Right.
make choices. And that's what truly our sovereignty is about.
yeah.
Is we choose to make the choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other point that we had earlier that I'm really concerned about, and I just wish we could, I'd like to intend some upliftment around this, but division is happening.
Mitosis,
Mitosis.
a new earth.
Okay, so let's get a new perspective on this,
Okay.
because what I'm talking about is the division that's happening amongst people who have been friends for years.
Yeah.
Okay. Division happening. We have so many of us
Wow.
that are trying to make a change in the world,
Right.
and without naming organizations, I'll leave that to Dean.
Right.
They like to do that. But there are so many of us that the vision was to be helpful, right? And then there's so much suspicion, like somebody looks at you crooked, and now you're a friggin' agent,
I saw that happening when I was 16 at this point.
Yeah.
That turning the body against itself. Turning our collective body
Yes.
against itself.
Yes.
That is the worst virus.
All right. And that's part of the enslavement program.
It ties into the medical. It ties into the mindset.
Yeah. Has been to divide us.
Yep.
And we're fallen. I mean, you look every direction. We're falling out on each other.
Yeah.
There's got to be, there's just got to be a way to let that the fuck go.
Yeah. Right.
We've got to get over this. And the only place I understand that is, look, like you said earlier, you don't let anyone walk over you. Okay. You maintain your integrity. But,
well, if you let somebody walk over you, then you become trampled. So upright as a physical being is part of our divine sovereign right to be upright.
Okay, let's go there.
Upright beings.
Yeah, and it just seems to me that there has got to be a way to alleviate this division, because when you allow yourself, let's say you allow yourself to feel your anger, all right, and feel betrayed, and even feel scandalized, all right,
and hurt,
right. In the end, you're the only one that can heal that. It really doesn't take the other person saying, I'm sorry, or I did something wrong. It helps. But in the end, you are your own healer. Okay?
It sounds like you're talking about forgiveness.
Yeah. All right.
Giving that gratefulness and that compassion ahead of time, even when it's your enemy, so to speak. Your enemy's brought to your table at your meal.
Yeah.
A lot of the very indigenous tribes.
The Tibetan, invite your demons for tea.
But you have to be a very strong-centered being to do that. See,
a
lot of people aren't aware enough to handle that. And that's why they get scared, and it's too much. And
that's why I keep going.
They avoid, and they stay in the slumber and slave.
That's right. And you put the person in a box, boom, boom, boom. They're off my list.
But see, we might be people to be able to do that. And
oh, you're so good. No, go ahead.
There's a lot of others that aren't, but that's where it steps back in, where you feel like I know that part of my gifts are to forgive, as Gandhi says, I be the change.
Right.
Then therefore, or choose that to activate that gift or that ability that helps others in their gifts. It may not be the same thing that they can do, but that doesn't negate that they still have to choose to be aware.
Yes.
Choose sovereignty and choose what they're feeding and what they're participating in. That's still part of whether your skill lies in a different area or not.
And okay, and I think this is why I keep coming back to that cultivation of our spirit source self. It's like The deeper understanding is if we know this is a big farce, this is a big game, right? And there are Ferber,
Yeah.
whatever I said, okay? Then the division that's happening between us is as much a farce.
Absolutely.
But we're giving a lot of attention to the way you looked at me, you're a done deal. You're out of my life, right? The way you wrote that article, fuck you. We're not on the same page. We have every scenario possible to X anyone out of your life.
And there should be no X's.
There should be no X's. What is the solution there? It's like that is killing us. We know it's,
Well,
I mean, you can X everybody right out of your life in like that.
well, it's one thing to delineate, draw a straight line, because a line eventually becomes a circle and the circle becomes a spiral. But when you X, you're going in different directions. Granted, you can have a little crossroad,
Yeah.
and that crossroad can propel that next understanding.
Right.
You know, what you balance around that. Granted, but if we're always, you're right. I don't like this. I don't need that. That's wrong. This is that. That is that. We're out of balance with our intention, our focus, and we're not choosing as aware beings to say,
Okay.
I compassionately am choosing not to participate in this. You may have a very different opinion. Because globally, for us or cosmically, to us to work with other beings and realize the grandeur of our organic beingness, life forms, our organic, the creation that Source has created, that is so amazing. We have to be able to stand in a very, very loving place with differences.
Yes.
We've got to find new ways to
Diversity.
acknowledge the differences and not let them become a battleground where we weep on and we use weaponry in order to prove a point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've got to be able to say, I agree to disagree.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean I feed or exchange. You know, you might have an exchange, but we can do it responsibly, and it's only 10%.
Right.
But we agreed.
down with D. Draco. Get your app. Okay, well then here's the thought. Maybe, you know, this whole idea that we're supposed to work together globally, maybe that's not in the material realm. I mean, if we look back to indigenous cultures, which we do often, we go back to what worked, right? What worked before enslavement? And it was small tribes. Now, what if the global concern that's grown is yet another enslavement tool that figures here, make them believe they have to take care of the whole world and they'll never be able to do it. And that'll keep them distracted real good. If you look to our origins, maybe we are supposed to be small groups.
But the small works with the greater. So the small being stabilized.
Yes.
Allows the synergized, rather.
Right.
The small being synergized allows the macro to be synergized.
Mm-hmm.
So otherwise, then we've got it backwards. If we're trying to always be macro, there's all this other chaos and mixed direction happening. We can't have synergy.
Exactly. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So we've missed the nurturance and the cultivation of the micro.
Yes.
And, you know, we have to assess everything. Like, for instance, if they've used mainstream media to entangle us, right? Then they've divided us.
Absolutely.
That's a macro approach, right? Just like food. You know, they've made it a macro industry. And yet what are we trying to regain? Local organic farming.
Absolutely.
Local, how do you take care of your water?
Even
locally.
Even just small little tranquility spaces where you might grow 2 or 3 plants to supplement the Draco. To supplement, you know, your purchasing of other foods. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to go out and become a gardener in order to make a difference in your life and the world's life. Believe me, that's been a challenge for me. I'm doing 5 plants. I've chosen my favorite to start with, and I'm just doing the best I can. And I have to honor that big intention.
And that's big just in and of yourself. So what if that's part of the, I mean, think about it. everything, when you go to recultivate your life, reprogram, we're all pulling in. It's small groups. It's how you sharing resources again in the immediate environment. And our indigenous families
Right.
have survived forever like that.
Right. But I think a new community is also, we've got a little mixed up. We think a new community where we all have to go there and take it on,
Yeah.
rather than we looking at those priorities and how can we start with making choices about those simple and very important resources on our own in small little groups.
Exactly.
That is it.
Mm-hmm.
That is it.
Yeah, I'm kind of spinning here, but I know you'll go with me. I'm thinking about our beautiful platform of alternative media, CCN, right?
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think out of the box here for a moment. But it almost feels like it should be like, I don't know how this would work technologically, but let's say we've got a small crew here and we're interested in what CCN's doing and we want to hear these people. What if we were like bought into, we had an independent stream, right? I don't know, that the streams only went to the communities that had an affinity towards the programmers. Like we weren't trying to reach the world.
Oh, interesting.
But we were focusing on, hey, there's a crew in Europe. There's an affinity community right there. We're going to feed them a stream.
This is so indicative
Like
of,
I'm trying
of
to
life.
go.
You're right. Because
micro.
when you start training or a discipline or an inner journey,
right,
you seek out that information, that resource, that director, that teacher, that guru.
That's right.
The guru does not come and grab you. Let's get all these students. Let's get all these
exactly.
adepts. Let's get all. Let's go. Let's go clean it up. They're waiting for that interest. So there is kind of something very, very powerful about what you said, because if, like you said, alternative information can feed the ones that are ready, that are ripe.
Right.
We might have more productivity in a very healthy way.
Exactly. Because
more
here
nutrients.
Here's a hub.
Yep.
And it's an abundance of information. And I know myself, when someone turns to me and says, have you checked this out? It's always a personal connection that makes me turn my attention towards something. But like you said, if we were following the model of spirituality that has been successful, when a student is ready, the teacher is there.
They offer. They're
so
present.
If we were looking at CCN, like the teachers, all the teachers, when the students are ready, then they're going to find us here. Right?
Be centered in that, so then therefore you can be found.
Yeah, that's that was good.
Right.
Dang, that was just so profound. Yay. Okay, so yeah, because I feel, we're still answering to some trolls and attacks. And I guess in a way, I know
a troll. I was seeing a troll underneath
the
bridge, but then I could see that, and then we added tags.
That's one of those. It's one of those internet words.
You can answer to trolls can come into your door.
Okay. Yeah. But I guess in a way, I mean, could almost jump to like a community. Like, let's say we have a small community, and I don't have very many here that are participating in CCN. There's a little bit, right? But what if, as a group, we recognize the value, and here we are again. We're a local group, and so we nourish our platform.
Right.
We nourish our teaching house, whatever you want to call it.
And then we contribute with others that's how you build that different kind of fabric and tapestry.
Yeah.
You've got to start somewhere
Yeah.
rather than trying to
Right. Instead of trying to
industrialize another freaking model.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's almost
Another
like
system.
we have to almost pull apart the industrial revolution was devastating.
Well, I was watching something, I can't remember what it was, but it was to do with technology and energy, solar, I think it was. Yes. And this gentleman had done something great in Germany. I think you've heard about him. He said, my path, the journey I'm choosing, I'm aware of, is I am going to find 100 roofs to rent, to put solar up. So he rents the rooftops from the people to put solar. So then therefore the people have solar, then therefore their government gets some, and also he gets some. So they get to feed it back to they feed it back to the other people.
Okay.
So it's like 3 winning out of 1 aware choice. You've got the 3-fold or the 10-fold.
Yeah.
One conscious choice can move mountains, right? So I think that's really fascinating. However, he was using the same jargon. He was calling it the new industrial model for energy. And I'm like, no, industrial was burning gas. How can you feel like you want to equate those two? And then the only thing I could come up with is he was referring to industrial as kind of mass producing something, because that's another thing that's we can't mass produce. We're cookie cutting.
Yes,
and that's cut out.
That's the theme. The mass production, you see, that was a model that was created to enslave us.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it was an additional part of the model. Yeah.
So we have to look at that mass production is what has divided us as well. For a while there we thought, oh, this is great. We're getting pineapples from Costa Rica and, and da-da-da-da-da. But if we keep coming back to what we're following, we're looking at our immediate local environment. And so I would say, we've got Hollywood that's been part of the enslavement, right? We've got all the mainstream media news. TV was created to implant and program. So, forgive me if I offend anyone, because I love you guys. I love CCN, and I'm not trying to pull us apart, but I'm really asking the question. It's like,
how do we create new models?
Are we approaching alternative media with our best model? That's kind of what I'm asking. Is it in our best interest to be modeling off of an old media idea?
Exactly.
Okay. And I'm just saying that because I'm just trying to throw it around and see, are we making ourselves codependent once again
on the Draco, and it's back up to 90%, even though we're trying to nurture the
exactly
30% of awesomeness. I had something really to say with that was so good, but I lost it, so I'll have to come back to that.
All right. Well, what you were saying before was you were bringing it back. You were going like this. You were bringing it back to the micro.
No, was that actually off of what you were talking about?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's something about it. There's just something about this large scale approach that I don't think is in our interest any longer. Because if you just look at how we're healing ourselves, people are going back to the land. They're working in small groups. They're working locally. We're already talking about get used to certain foods not being imported, exported. Why are we doing that to begin with? Okay.
I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So you were talking about, how the enslavement is in all these different areas. We can take it back to, and in addition to our law, you look at that, not our law. We want to choose and be aware and choose the natural law.
Right.
Talk about ITNJ and New Earth, and how different can we have agreements that are different, that are healthy in comparison with our relationship that we now have with a system. And what I look at this, like the pineapple, you were talking about the pineapple coming, and our whole industrial model Well, really, the whole maritime and Black's law is based on that wordage. Everything has to do with a vessel, a ship,
Right? Yeah.
has to do with water.
Water.
Water transports love.
Mhm.
It's the transporter of love.
Mhm.
So if we control the ship itself
Mhm.
and the merchandise,
Mhm.
or they or whoever may think that then it ends up stifling that organic life growing source and uninterrupted. Let's say try that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So you talk about the maritime. You've got like when we even use words like drowning in debt.
Right.
You know, so we've got to look at our relationship with what
Water.
we're creating. Yes. And water, and choose a difference, find, and in small groups, find different ways to have communicate as well.
Mhm.
Because the communication is so within that system. That's how
Mhm.
thick it is. So we start with water. Start with
Mm.
water. What is our relationship with that? Are we just using it to bypass merchandise and industrialize and product? Are we
Or
putting
disperse.
putting
Are
our
we
waste
using
in
our
it?
water to disperse our energies?
Yeah, totally. To put our waste in it, and
Right.
what?
So we're
even
polluting our waters, even with the commerce of exchanging product, which we think
Yes.
we've gotten so dependent upon that now we can't live without it, which is not true.
That's another point too, is within our balance, how can we let go of those things that we think we always
Right.
have to have?
Exactly.
How simple can we make it so that therefore we have more?
Because every
Yeah.
environment has its own particular way of foods or products that can be grown and done. We've done it forever.
And it's one thing to still have a healthy exchange. It's not saying that, oh no, you never can trade or share something. Share
Right.
your Chinese herbs with the Indian Native American. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and the only reason, if you go back in our history, whenever we have gone over to another country, all we've done is stolen the goods,
Yeah.
taken the resources, and enslaved the people.
Right.
And the people were typically functioning fine.
Right.
So why disturb those micro systems that are successful?
Because the Draco reality wants to have more percentage that we're participating in. Yeah.
Dracos aren't playing fair.
Right,
Didn't we figure that out already?
Right. But I guess, what's so interesting is when you talked about the shipping of our food,
Mhm.
and we were talking about industrial, and then I saw,
Yeah.
that connection that it's, within our law system, and that Black's law and the maritime law,
Mhm.
and how, it's about a ship docking, with the merchandise. And it's actually based off of the feminine way of organically bringing life. The package that's now has the birth certificate with the social security number, so it can be traded and delivered to a doctor. You bring the shipping
delivered to the dock.
It's very fascinating when
Yeah,
you look at
it
that.
is.
And once you do, you look at it and you say, okay, I am you at whatever level you need to keep studying it to get your aha.
Right.
Once you got your aha, it helps you refocus.
Yeah.
Choose where you truly want to put your focus, your relationships, how you want to have a relationship with water differently, and the people you love differently, and the industrial model. I'm so done with that.
Yeah.
So done with that.
Nice. I think that was a really great spiraling. And now it's got me thinking. It's like, now I want to address everything. It's like how we can bring each thing. Well, I'm just thinking about media right now. Like, how does media serve us on a local level? Is it necessary? I guess what I'm saying too is it necessary to communicate with the entire world? I mean, I'm just trying to think out of the box. I would ask these questions. How necessary is it to have global communication right now? Since we can't do shit about stopping bombing or anything, and there's no place to run to. So what's the purpose of global communication right now, other than if your family's spread all over the planet, right? What's the purpose of global media right now?
Right. This is good stuff.
And why wouldn't we be doing local, I don't know where I'm going with this,
Well,
but
I know where you're going.
it's
I know
kind
where
of
you're
like,
going.
and we are coming to the tail end of our show
Okay.
here, but okay, so let's just
Well,
summarize this.
I got a summary with you. You talk and I'll tell you what I know.
All right, because we got a few minutes here.
Okay.
I think basically what are the kinds of questions would we ask if we were focusing on the micro right now and assume that macro has been part of the enslavement program? And if we're turning to our roots and ancestors only to remember that we were successful in small groups, small tribes, and we're returning to that. We're all returning to how do you grow your own food and local, okay? So my question is the model of the macro approach actually an enslavement tool? Something to that nature.
And with this, it's like kind of like even you can look at our food. We have
Right.
big farmers or big corporations feeding the global.
Right.
Same with our media. And if we had these little connecting, joining points that share, they don't connect until they have an agreement, until they realize that they are connecting and have a different kind of awareness. Otherwise, you don't force your connection.
Yeah, you don't force the commerce.
Right.
So let's say we take
So this
our
is like
country here right now, and we have enough small communities that we go all the way from Arkansas to California. All right?
Yeah.
Then
so now this one's connected because, oh my gosh, I see we share ideas. So therefore, I'm down with even if it's but they have to collect too. You know, this small little group has to say, oh, we want to choose to have the streaming here. And we actually want to connect and maybe invite 5 people to come to a home where you can talk about the conversations. It's not like only in the room you're watching something.
Right. What you're talking about is changing our receptivity to the media that's being shared.
Right. It's just like sharing food. If the government's just giving you these farmers and this corporation are just giving you this food and you're sitting in your house or going to the junk food store and getting your food, you have no connectivity. You know, you find like-minded people and you share a meal to nurture. So maybe the media needs to be looked at as kind of our food model too. You know, how are we feeding our
Yeah. Okay. It's almost like we'd have to re-educate ourselves on not only
yeah.
Right. Okay, duh. We'll do an app on that. But is re-educate ourselves on communication. What is the healthiest way to communicate? What content is actually essential, and our receptivity. We have to re-educate ourselves as listeners and viewers.
Yes.
Well, gosh, we opened up a whole potential new session. We
Find
could go
beautiful ways to come together.
We got to wrap it up. Oh my gosh, this has been an amazing time with you, Tamara.
Always.
I'm just so grateful.
I am too.
And we are going to have some other shows. I need to make this announcement. Beginning next week, July 1st, it's a Wednesday. Get Lit is changing its day and time to Wednesdays. It'll be 3 p.m. Central Time, and I believe that's 9 p.m. BST time. Hope I said that right. And Rebecca, she shall return next week co-hosting. And again, if you have responses or comments to the session that we just shared, please put it on the Get Lit Facebook page. This way, both Rebecca and I access the messages. And again, we welcome, please make comments, send messages. We're always open to new conversation and discussion. And again, thank you so much, CCN, Biggie, Mel V. It's been,
We're
again,
grateful.
An honor.
We love you and we'll blow you kisses too.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.